Dave Liniger's tour of duty as chairman and co-founder of REMAX has been a wild ride. He's a NASCAR racer and a daring trailblazer.
I've been through 8 recessions, and I've made money in all of them. Believe me, the College of Hard Knocks is a great education. Most people can't afford the tuition. You can have a battle plan all you want when the first shot is fired, and then throw that battle plan out because it's going to change.
Dave Liniger is one of the world's most driven and resilient leaders. This is a Curious CEO you don't want to miss. Well, welcome back to another episode of The Curious CEO. Today, I'm joined by Dave Liniger, who is the chairman and co-founder of REMAX International. Dave, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Dermot. Nice to see you again.
Thank you for joining us. I can't tell you how excited I am to have you on today because we've known each other now 21 years, believe it or not. Now, I know you're not counting, but I am. It was a good day when I met you, and I'm so excited to have you on today and for our audience to learn from your wisdom and your journey. And so thanks for taking the time.
It's my pleasure.
You know, you've built this incredible organization, you and Gail. You've built it from an idea to not only an incredible organization, but a global brand. REMAX has grown to over 140 countries, 9,000 offices, and more than 140,000 agents worldwide. It's an incredible story. As I said to you before, it's kind of like, you've said you're an overnight success, but it's been quite the journey, hasn't it?
It's been one of the most adventurous things I've ever tried in my life.
Well, I'm looking to dig into some of your experience and wisdom today. Just for a bit of backstory, how did you go from being serving your country in Vietnam in the Air Force to where you are today? How did you go from the Air Force to real estate business to where you are?
Well, I was in the Air Force for 6 or 7 years. My final assignment was to Air Force ROTC detachment at Arizona State University. I had returned from Southeast Asia from multiple tours, and I was a little beat up. So they gave me one of the easiest jobs in the world. And naturally, I didn't have to prepare too much for that job. We had to drill and that type of thing, but it was much easier than anything I'd ever done in the Air Force. So I found myself with extra time trying to figure out, I'm not going to stay in the Air Force because I couldn't afford to live on that income. I was a sergeant. I was not an officer, and read some books on buying and selling and fixing up property and making money that way. And so I started doing that and realized that how much profit there was. No intention of being an agent, but I got a license to save the commissions on the investments I was getting involved in. And as I'm still there part-time, I started thinking, well, these old fuddy-duddies in here, they were old. Some of them are 50 or 60 years old at the time. I'm in my early 20s. I'm thinking, hell, if they can sell a house, I can sell a house. I tried for 6 months, part-time, skinny, short hair, obviously military, Volkswagen without an air conditioner in Scottsdale, Arizona. And I gave up and quit. Emptied my box out. And manager stood there and watched to make sure I didn't steal a pencil or a eraser or something. And I said, well, I'm not made for this. And he says, well, I didn't think you'd ever make it. And I said, well, why in the world did you hire me? And he said, we hire everybody, anybody. Everybody's got a mother, a brother, a best friend, and we pick up deals that way. And I had paid to hear a motivational speaker the next morning, Dave Stone. And I went front row, listened to him, and it's just like the Buffini brothers. I mean, these guys are smooth. And I had never had any training, and I was mesmerized. Every break, I jumped up and grabbed his hand and said, oh my God, Mr. Stone, man, if I had those speaking skills, I could make a living at this. He says, well, how long you been trying? And I said, 6 months. And he said, if I were you, I'd quit. And I said, I did last night. But if you'll learn me, if you'll teach me, I'm back in it today, right now. And of all things, of all the stupid things that can happen to you, I had to stop and get some milk on the way home for the kids. A young Latino girl, about 19, 20 years old, very attractive, was talking to her father and they were doing mostly Spanish, but I understood real estate. And I asked her, I said, tell me, are you talking about real estate? She said, yes, my father is moving and we need to sell his house, but we don't know anything about it. And I thought, well, I do. I can help him. I went home with them, listed the house, had it sold for full price that night, 2 offers. And I thought, boy, this is cool. The next morning, I took her and her fiance out and had sold them a house by noon. And they referred me to 3 other sets. And so in 48 hours, I'd gone from 6 months with nothing to 1 sold listing and 4 sales. And the thing that was remarkable was 2 things happened to me. Number one, I was extremely confident because, hey, I just made 4 deals this week. And so I was able to get off this dead spot I was at. But the other thing that was most remarkable about it was I got more pleasure out of the girls hugging me and kissing my cheek and the men shaking my hands and clapping me on the back and saying, man, we never thought we'd ever own a house. And it was a turnaround, and the rest was history. I started following, basically coach. I started doing what I was supposed to do, and within a year or so, I was getting out of the service. I'd done 363 transactions in a year, and I said, I hate the desert. I'm going to move to God's country, Colorado, and the rest is history.
No, there's not many people in this industry that have started at the grassroots level to build an organization. You started REMAX with people like yourself in mind. How did you get into the franchise? How did you get into the real estate, brokerage, franchise sales business?
I had to study to get my broker's license. I had to have a year's residency, and I did extremely well in the Nidmer market. I didn't know a person in it. I was very successful, and I thought, why am I giving half my commission away for nothing? I get all my business myself, and that's happened in the industry at that time. We were on a 50-50 split, and I had heard about the 100% concepts. I'd worked for 3 different real estate companies, and I said, why couldn't you take the best managed, best led company in the country, which at the time was Van Schok and Company in Denver. The average man made $50,000 a year on a 50-50 split, when the average full-time realtor made $5,000 a year. And why couldn't you take their management approach, their leadership, and combine it with a shared expense concept, like a group of doctors or lawyers that share the office space, pay for their own clerical needs and stuff, do their own advertising, and keep all the fees for themselves. And I put it together in a matter of about a week, went out and incorporated it. I had some savings, and I opened my doors, and all hell broke loose.
Now, if I remember correctly, I don't think it was the best market when you started, was it?
No, it was the first oil embargo, 1973, and realtors couldn't get gas to even show people around in cars, and so you'd wait for 3 blocks at 11 o'clock at night to try to get some gas so you could show houses, and the market was very depressed. I ran my first advertisement, why split your commissions, keep it all for yourself. 1,100 phone calls in 30 days, about 100 of them threatening. We're going to drive you out of business. We're going to tar and feather you. You're going to ruin this industry. This is just nothing but rented desk. You're a scumbag, etc. But the agents called up quite curious. I did 204 face-to-face interviews and signed up 4 people. And by the end of the year, debts were high. I was up to 21. The next year I got to 42. Year after that, I doubled to 84, to 134, and year number 5, 289. And in year 5, with 289, 80% of my staff was female or multicultural. They couldn't get a job at the 2 biggest companies in town. They didn't hire women in sales. And we kicked their butts. We became number 1 in the state, and that gave us a tremendous amount of publicity around the real estate industry.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you were blazing a trail, but you didn't have a fully baked out plan, did you?
No, everything changes. It's just like in the military. You can have a battle plan all you want. When the first shot is fired, man, throw that battle plan out because it's going to change. And so the early days were quite a struggle, but it was a persistence thing. I was very fortunate. My first employee was a lady by the name of Gail Main. She had just gotten married, trailing spouse with a husband that was a Median F department store, and they transferred him and her to Denver. I don't think she was quite serious about it, but I interviewed 27 people for administrative vice president, and I turned down the first 27. And 5 minutes into our conversation, I knew she was the one. She was smart. She was confident. She was charismatic. She was a good-looking woman, good work ethic, a great background. And I told her, I said, look, I don't know anything about running a company. I think I can be a leader, and I think I can be a sales manager. I can recruit and I can train, but I don't know how to lease offices or hire attorneys or hire and supervise secretaries and buy furniture and that sort of thing. So she took over the managerial part, and I took over the promoting part. It was a partnership made in heaven.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it certainly was, and now she's been your wife for.
Yeah, we were partners for 10 years, and husband and wife now for 40.
Yeah. Wow. Amazing story. Let me ask you this, because one of the things, obviously, you transformed the real estate industry. As you said, it wasn't just the 100%, concept. It wasn't the marketing, the promotion. You had an intention of this was going to be the home of the best agents. Like, that was a standard. That was your expectation. That was your promise.
Yeah, my disappointment with the real estate industry is the barriers to entry are so low. For instance, if you want to become a masseuse or a beautician, most state laws, you have to train for it, and you have to do 500 for free to nursing homes and old folks' homes and hospitals and stuff before they'll let you charge for your service. In most states, you have to study for an exam and pay them $25 or something. And so the barriers just don't exist. And if you look at the Consumer Federation of America, did a study last December that showed that 50% of the 1.5 million people in the National Association of Realtors had not had a closing in 12 months. So it's the 80-20 rule. 20% of the agents are doing 80% of the business. Lots of people come in, lots of people try, lots of people quit, and the 20% stay longer and longer, and they're taking more and more of the pie.
Yeah. Well, it's not an easy business, is it? And, many of, obviously, our clients are a very resilient bunch. One of the things you are known for, not just being a visionary, a great sales guy, great storyteller, you're a personal growth and development guy, but what you're known for is your determination and your resilience. As leaders, how can we build that? And obviously it's always a tough season. Leadership's always difficult. I know it's a tough season out there right now, in the market, in the economy. How can we build a mindset of resilience?
Very simple. Courage comes from confidence, and confidence comes from experience. So if you're in a position like I am today, basically started with nothing. I didn't invent anything. I merely took everybody's ideas I could get and saw which ones worked for me and my personality. So that's an important thing, this experience thing. So I can say in an audience, 20,000 people, ladies and gentlemen, I've been through 8 recessions, and I've made money in all of them. And so what you have to do is learn every possible thing you can in each recessionary time period. So for instance, when the interest rates went to 17% back in the early 1980s, we had to talk sellers into carrying a lot of paper because most people didn't have assumable loans. And so you couldn't get their low interest rate they had. But we convinced them, take a down payment, and within 2 to 3 years, require in your documents that they refinance. That, well, 2 years later, it was back down in the percent range, and everybody refinanced, and everybody made money. So we adapted to it. In the 2007 debacle, we discovered that all the foreclosure properties and short sales is where the business was. And I had a fabulous sales gal in Paradise Valley next to Scottsdale. She called me one day and said, there hasn't been $1 million house sell in 12 months. And that's all I've sold in the last 5 years. And so she said, I just took a course on handling distressed properties. It's the best course I've ever been to in my life. And I'm going to go sell $100,000 houses until the market turns around. So we met him, we talked to him, told him, you convince me that this is a good course, I'll convince 10,000 REMAX agents it is. And he convinced me. They presented it to me and my staff. I immediately started, carrying the flag for him. We started seminars, quarterly sales meetings, did it by TV, direct dish, whatever. And we got him 18,000 people in 10 months. And those 18,000 people took over the foreclosure market.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. See, I love that. The experience, what I'm hearing in that as well is the fact that in every challenge, there's an opportunity to learn. There's an opportunity to adjust and be resilient. Let me ask you this. How do you, I mean, obviously we want to build a mindset in the people that we lead, but sometimes I think we can get confidence from our success, from markets, sometimes a little overconfident. When you've had the stuffing knocked out of you, because you've taken some punches, not, on a lot of levels, how have you been able to get back up to be resilient, to be focused, and back to your determination? Like, what are some of the things you do to get over getting a punch in the gut?
I think the first thing is a good memory is a bad thing. If in a realtor, for instance, and you remember, I sold that house 20 years ago for $350,000, and now it's $1.5 million. That's the wrong mindset. It's the time sliver that you're working in that's the mindset. And so for me, I try not to forget the mistakes. I try to bask in the glory years. But the truth of the matter is, this is a cyclical business, and this is just one more of the 8 downturns I've been in. And with confidence, I can look at my audience and say, this too will pass. Mm-hmm. What you have to do is get down on your hands and knees and grovel and dig and bite and kick and fight. Mm-hmm. I'll remember on Christmas Eve, one of my favorite broker owners in Scottsdale, I was down there for the Christmas vacation. I took him to breakfast that morning, and he made a comment to me I've never forgotten. And his name was Howard Lane. And Howard said, this market sucks, but it's just like any other thing. Let's talk about wolves. You have a pack of wolves manage to bring down a caribou. It means that some of those wolves are going to have to take more than their fair share because there's not enough meat for all the wolves. And he says, Dave, we have to take more than our fair share for our people to succeed. And that was the battle cry of every turnaround we've done has been, okay, it's tightening up on us. Let's get smart. Let's work harder. Let's work longer. We can do this. We've proved it year after year after year. That's confidence that, yes, I can overcome these hurdles.
Mm-hmm. Hard work, dig in. And I can also see, when you're leading one or two people or a team, it's difficult. I think what's even more difficult is when you have a lot of people. How did you lead your troops? Was it by example, by experience, by teaching, by what was your thought process every time you got in front of people to lead them through tough times?
All of those things are true. The truth of the matter is, people mimic. People boss watch. How do you behave is how your people will behave. And if you're still coming in as the owner of the office, and you're still coming in Sunday morning at 9 o'clock and sorting out stuff in your desk because your agents are selling houses on Saturdays and Sundays. If you're not there, you're just the ivory tower. And so what can you do that they will mimic what you do? And a college degree is fine.
Yeah.
98% of everything that you're going to do in your life is because you mimic somebody else successfully.
Well, one thing I've learned about you too is that whether it's NASCARs, horses, the golf business, anything that you got into, you didn't just get into it lukewarmly, did you?
Yeah, I was all in.
All in. And the thing, the other side of it is that your success is not by accident. Your success hasn't been because of a good market or a bad market. One of the things I have learned about you and watched you and in our discussions is that you are such a big personal growth and development consumer of content, teacher. What are some of the resources and tools that have really helped you grow? Any books, any resources? What does it look like today?
About the same thing it looked like 50 years ago. The personal development field has exploded. 60 years ago, my first motivational stuff were LP records, because that's what they had. And Earl Nightingale, as a matter of fact. And then, of course, they went to cassettes, and then they went to DVDs and discs. But in-person seminars are important. Seminars give you a chance to get out of the rat mill and listen and think. And I always have 2 pads of paper. I have one pad for things that this person says that, boy, I'm going to use that somehow. And the other one is I start daydreaming when I'm listening to somebody too long, and all of a sudden a thought will come to me, jarred by something he has said that, oh, I remember I was going to do this, and I put that on my other pad. And I end up getting as much of this stuff that I'd forgotten that I was going to do, reminding me what to do. So coaching is incredibly important. Continual reading, knowing your industry. Every industry is undergoing unbelievable changes. If you think it's bad in the real estate business, try the fast food business. I mean, it's remarkable what's happening there, and the raising of the minimum wage and the changing of the processes of how you have got to be successful. I will tell you something, if I can end with this. Adaptability to change is everything in your mindset. You cannot be afraid to adapt and change. I looked at it yesterday. I'm making a speech up. Fortune 500 companies, 20 years ago, the 500, 47% are gone. They did not adopt and change. The Blockbuster got its butt kicked by Netflix. Kodak invented the digital camera and said, nobody will buy one of those. We're in the business of selling film. And look what happened to them.
Yeah.
And so it's adaptability.
Yeah.
And you adapt because you listen, you question, you ask. Go brainstorm with people. What are you doing to be successful today? What am I doing right? You know me pretty well. What do you think I should change?
Very good. You were also a big believer of getting outside of your bubble. You didn't just go to real estate events, did you?
It's funny. As we started putting on events, our first national convention for REMAX was 26 people. By the time I was doing 500 people, which was very quickly, I was getting my way into Amway conventions. The cosmetic business.
Mary Kay.
Yeah, Mary Kay with the pink Cadillacs.
Yeah.
And I would sit there for 3 days. I had no intention of selling cosmetics. I wanted to see what they did.
Yeah.
Because I was going to take the best part of their conventions, what they did on stages. How do you adapt to that? Hey, could I use that? What speakers did they have that would speak, generically at my conventions? And so I probably went to about 100 different conventions of different companies and different industries just to figure out how do you put on a fantastic convention.
And you do, if you've been to one of your conferences, it is a show. I mean, you used to bring elephants out on stage. I saw you eating an Oreo cookie out of a buffalo's mouth one time. I don't even know, flying in on stages. You made your bubble much bigger because you got outside your bubble. I want to get into the perfect 10 here because I want to also respect your time. And as I said to somebody earlier, Dave Liniger is not a podcast. Dave Liniger is a Netflix series. Maybe that's the next idea you have. Do a Netflix series. I have to ask you this. What has been the hardest leadership lesson you've had to learn about yourself personally that, you're like, man, I've had to learn how to manage that. What's the one that's gotten you into trouble or a lesson you've had to learn?
The worst thing that I've done is not firing people when they needed to go. I bragged to everybody for years. First 38 years of REMAX history, not one single officer quit my company. And finally, one day I realized something that, boy, I got 4 of them that don't work anymore. They're entitled. They've been here for 20 some years and they just don't care. Versus the new ones we got, they're out there, giving it all. And so I had to find a way to fire people. And when you don't fire people, you're hurting 3 people. You're hurting them because you've already pigeonholed them and you're never going to promote them again. And you're hurting the employees that work for them because they know they're a worthless manager, and you're hurting yourself and your stockholders. So finding the courage to understand that firing people is okay. You got to get the right people on the bus. You got to get the wrong people off the bus, and you got to get the right people in the right seats on the bus.
Yeah, for sure. Well, and one of the things people may not know about Dave Liniger is the fact that you really care about people. Like what you were saying, at the heart of this business was the fact that you said, yeah, you loved the cash and the commission checks, but you loved helping that couple that you described as much as anything. And I think for a lot of people who are watching here today, like myself, I love people. I want to see the best of people. And sometimes that can be very hard, and you can take it on yourself. The burden on yourself as leaders, like, I'll make it up. I'll do it. So I can see that being, yeah, makes sense. That's a good tip. Tell me about this. Tell me about the book, Perfect 10. Why now? What's behind this? Why did you do it? And what are you hoping it's going to do?
Well, in the foreword, I explain there's not an original idea in there. What I've done, and I've tried to give the source for every quote, for every concept that I've come up with, I've tried to say where it originated if I could find it. And so it isn't that I'm stealing the knowledge. I wanted to build an encyclopedia for an entrepreneur who wanted to be a leader and to do it without making all the mistakes I made. Because believe me, the College of Hard Knocks is a great education. Most people can't afford the tuition.
Well said.
And so this book is for leaders and people who aspire to be a leader to understand themselves, to understand personal development, to understand helping people be successful, and how to really score a knockout. And it's not about balance, but the perfect 10, this concept is, do you have a perfect life? And I can tell you from experience, I went through a divorce that wasn't a very nice thing. And it was mostly on my fault because I was working 18 hours a day and not paying attention to the family. I managed to save my children in time. And I still have 4 of the greatest kids in the world that are just remarkable adults. Every mistake that I made, I tried to figure out, wow, that hurt. Don't do that again. Why did I do that? And if you analyze yourself honestly, you know when you're screwing up. And so I wanted to have it all. Wealth, adventure, prestige, friendship, a loving family. I mean, that's it. And you can do that.
It's good encouragement, Dave. Well, and you're not slowing down anytime soon, are you?
Not hardly.
Because you're not designed to do it. And honestly, I said at the beginning of this, I've known you for 21 years. You've been a huge encouragement to me and Brian. You've given us great opportunities and confidence and challenged us. And one thing I've always appreciated about you is that you want to teach other people through what you've learned. And as I was looking through the book, one of the things on the back in the bibliography is, it is like a list of resources of, look at this, here's a book, here's a study. It's incredible. And it's a great cheat sheet. You can read the book and go to the back and go, here it goes. Here's where I got it. Here's the idea. And at the same time is what's incredible is your story and what's in here and what you've done. And I can't thank you enough. I hope, we've got our audience standing by. If you're good with it, would you be willing to hang back for about 30 minutes just to answer some questions that some of our clients have for you? I know that I'm sure there's going to be a lot. So
for you, of course.
Thank you, sir. Well, for everybody else, I want to thank you for tuning in today. I really want to encourage you to go and get a copy of Dave's book, The Perfect 10. I guarantee you there's some great stuff in here. There's something in here that will give you a thought, give you an idea, will help you in your leadership. And I don't know many people who have as much to offer not because of the information they know, but what they've done in their life than Dave Liniger. So go and pick up a copy of Dave's book. Dave, thanks again for joining us. We'll see you backstage in a few minutes. For everybody else, we'll be back next month with a great guest. I've got Dr. Henry Cloud who's going to talk to us about boundaries, not just for our personal life, but in our leadership and in our business. So until next time, stay curious, my friends.
Thank you for joining us on this month's Curious CEO. If you're ready to take your leadership to the next level, maybe it's time for you to work with a Buffini certified leadership coach. Our coaches will help you identify and leverage your natural leadership style, develop a strong organizational culture, improve recruiting and retention, and increase the profitability of your business. And among the benefits of our leadership coaching membership is a backstage pass to the Curious CEO that allows you to ask your questions directly to Dermot and his amazing guests. If you'd like to see if Buffini leadership coaching is right for you, schedule your complimentary leadership consultation using the URL on your screen.